All right, we are live. Welcome, Rich from the Ever After Band. I'm so excited to have you on the pod today. How are you doing?
I'm good. Thanks for having me. I'm super excited to chat today.
Yeah, I'm excited to chat more. I mean, we've been working together for a little bit, and it's been incredible to see your business and how it's been growing and just getting to know you as an artist. Like, there's so many phenomenal aspects about what you do. So excited to dig into that to inspire anyone else who is listening and wants to join in on the conversation. So, Rich, you have been on this thrilling journey with your music. The Ever After Band is a big part of that, but you're also like the most insanely talented musical impressionist I've ever heard before. That it doesn't really compute with my mind, so we're gonna be leaving some links below for people to check out so you know exactly what I mean. And you got like reviews from guys like Jeff Bezos on your website, so just cool all around. Tell us, does anything come to mind when you think of maybe some highlights in your musical life so far, maybe some performances that stand out as being some of the most memorable for you, that you could tell us a little bit about?
Yeah. Oh my God. It's really been just such a special journey. Like, first of all, just even being able to consider myself a full-time independent musician is like so cool. So like that in itself is really kind of a lifelong highlight for me. But yeah, some of the cool things that have happened. Yes, I did meet Jeff Bezos, which was really fun. He was really nice and so sweet. And he got a chance to see me perform and came up to me directly during the performance and gave me a really sweet compliment. And we didn't get a chance to spend too much time together. Obviously, he's a busy person, but that was really cool. I didn't see that coming.
Yeah, that's incredible.
Yeah, there's been so many really great moments. I've had opportunities to, sing the national anthem at my dream venue, which is Madison Square Garden. I'm from the New
Ooh.
Jersey, New York area, so I've seen my face on the jumbotron there,
That's amazing.
with a mic in my hand, which was awesome. Yeah, just so many things. I mean, I'm just so grateful for all of it. But yeah, I've had a lot of really great, blessed opportunities.
I love that. It's amazing. So before getting into more of the business aspect with the Ever After Band and what you're doing there, you have like this secret life on TikTok that it took me a little bit to discover. And it's like, oh my gosh, like you got like, what is that, 20 million followers there with your with your account? Tell us the story there. Like what was the inspiration to get that going? Did you know what was gonna happen when you started that? Tell us about that whole journey for you.
So it's funny. The way it all happened was it's hard to tell the story of TikTok without kind of rewinding a little bit. So
Of
I'll
course.
just I'll
Yeah.
just rewind for just a little bit. Ever since I was a kid, I've always done impressions. It was like something that I've always done ever since I was like 2 or 3 years old. Just so infatuated with the human voice. And so that's just something I always did to make my friends laugh. And, I even made some of my teachers in school laugh in seventh grade. My teachers would like pull me out of class to do like stand up routines, to do impressions for like their unruly
Oh my
class. They're like, I
gosh.
can't keep this class under control. Can you just like make them laugh for a few? So I've always been doing that my whole life. And then like I don't remember the year. It must have been like the 2010s, early 2010s at some point. I saw an act in Las Vegas. His name was Danny Gans. And unfortunately, he passed away pretty young. But I got a chance to see him live. And his act blew my mind and totally like changed the narrative of what was possible for me to do with my voice and my music. He basically had this 20-piece orchestra on stage with him, and he did specifically musical impressions,
Okay.
which I had never really seen anyone do before. There's a million and one celebrity impressionists out there. Um, but I was like, this is the coolest show I've ever seen. And so ever since then, I really started to dig in, and I'm like, I had always sung like other people, just
Yeah.
for fun. But I was like, this is like a possibility. And then COVID hit.
Right.
Um, Before COVID, I had put a couple theater shows together. I had done a few, appearances with that. One of my shows is called Impressionable, and my second show is called Under the Impression, and it's a whole comedy musical thing. But COVID hit, and I couldn't do anything, and so
Right.
I was just like, maybe I should just film myself doing these things, like just for fun, and set up my little home studio. And I just was like, how many voices can I do? And I was like, all right, let's try to do 50. I did 50, and I was like, try a few more. And I was like 60, 70, 80, 90. And I was like, let's try to do 90 voices. And I just kind
Oh
of
my
took that
gosh.
on. And
Yeah.
so I made this video of one man, 90 voices, and
Yeah.
cut it up, put them all on TikTok. And like 24 hours later, I had like 10 million views
Oh my
and,
gosh.
almost 200,000 followers on there. And I was just like, oh my God, like, I guess this is what happens when you just kind of follow the fun and follow the excitement. So
Yeah.
that's the backstory on all that.
That's incredible. Because I wanted to ask you about your how you just happened upon this talent. Like, what did you discover it? Were you like inspired by other people? So it sounds like it was something you always kind of were inspired by hearing other people do it. And just what else is it behind it? Just a lot of practice? Like, how do you sound like Mariah Carey and then like Elvis Presley? Like, is it just like lots of vocal like mastery behind the scenes? I imagine what it takes to develop that.
Yeah, so I have a theory I call four-dimensional listening.
Wow.
And it's so I grew up in a household where my father is an immigrant. He's Latino, and so he has a real thick accent, right? So and my mother speaks no Spanish, and so like growing up in that household, I always had to like find some way in the middle to kind of understand what anyone was saying in the house. So like,
Right.
um, I kind of think I developed this sense of listening where oftentimes people have trouble understanding dialects, accents, maybe even voice types, because I think they get hung up on certain elements of the voice. So, like for me, in the 4D listening model, it's like there's height and then there's highs and lows to the voice. Obviously, some people have higher voices, some people have low voices.
Yeah.
Then there's like horizontal voices, right? There's like wider voices, and then there's like narrower voices. Like a wide voice might
Oh,
be someone like like Kermit the Frog, like "Hi, it's a little more wide.
okay. Yeah.
And then there's people with narrow voices, like it's a little thin. And then there's
Yeah.
front to back, but then there's a fourth dimension of listening as well, which is listening for the nuance of the personality in the voice. So
Mhm.
my dad, he would say things backwards, because he would speak English in the house, and it
Yeah.
was sometimes it was hard to understand. So rather than get hung up on the words, I kind of learned how to listen to the person speaking
Huh.
before the words.
Yeah.
And I think that just naturally made me a little obsessed with the sound of the voice and the meanings and purpose of the voice. It's such a wonderful tool.
Yeah.
And obviously, I love music and I've always loved to sing. And so I kind of just married those two things together, and kind of here we are.
That's incredible. I wasn't expecting, I didn't know that you had a framework around how you approach what you do. I thought it was just going to be like, I don't know, it just happens. And everyone else is just like, what's going on? I mean, it's still magic. I don't understand it, but it's cool that you have this framework of how you hear sounds and how you practice them and apply them to your own voice. By the way, if you can hear any noise in the background, I apologize. Like, I swear I live in a quiet environment or a quiet neighborhood, but there's a football game randomly going on in
Perfect.
front of my house right now. So
Perfect.
apologies. Oh, we're
All
just gonna
good.
roll with that. I hope they're having fun. But
Yeah.
anyways, so moving back. So now we have, okay, so you've always had this knack and this ear for impressions and loving music. When did the Ever After band come into this equation of, okay, let's fire up this band? And obviously that's a huge selling proposition of what you guys do, is it literally sounds like whoever your favorite artist is in the room with you. So when did that journey begin and what was the inspiration behind that?
Yeah. So as I mentioned, I saw that show in Vegas.
Right.
The reason I was in Vegas was because I was in a band out there, and we were playing, all the casino rooms. Back at that time, live music was really prevalent in Las Vegas. Um, Again, rewind even further than that. My dad uh, was a band leader and a
Hmm.
phenomenal singer. Um, and without getting like too deep here, I don't know how deep you want to get today, but um, he couldn't make it work. My dad just couldn't
Mm.
make his music career work. And I
Hmm.
remember when I was like 7 or 8 years old, he just decided he needs to support the family, and he
Hmm.
kind of has to, hang up the gloves. And he
Hmm.
kind of decided to retire from music altogether because he was so passionate about it that he was like, I can't just dabble. If I'm not going to go for it, I just can't do it.
Right.
And so he retired, and I saw how unfulfilled it made him, and I saw how
Huh.
like kind of there was always like something in him. There was always a fire that just wasn't lit. Um,
Hmm.
and as I grew to love music, and I started music when I was about 7. I was like, I get it. Only I'm gonna make this work. And so it was always my dream to be a band leader. And then I was in bands my whole life, and I started in the classical world. So when I say band as a kid, it was like chamber ensemble and things like that. But it
Right.
was always my dream to lead an amazing band, like a show
Right.
band. And then I
Yeah.
saw that show in Vegas, and I was like, oh yeah, that's the vibe, man. Like
Right.
classy, elegant, but also fun. There's personality in it,
Yeah.
and so that was kind of how the ball all started rolling. And so after being in some other bands, not as the leader, uh,
Hmm.
I decided, gosh, it's been maybe about 9 or 10 years with this iteration of my career. We went through a few brand changes and name changes, but the Ever After band, as we know it now, is going strong for about 5 or 6 years.
Incredible. So I love so much about that. And I think one of the things that you saw to make things work is you had that vision, like seeing it, the band in Vegas, and you're like, this is what I want to create. And you just held on to that as you got your own team together. I think having the classy side to it is a huge advantage to making something sellable, which maybe was um, one of those missing pieces that helped you create the financial element to be able to make music your full-time thing. So that's super
Totally.
inspiring to hear. And yeah, it sounds like the impression you had like in your early environment with your dad and just like seeing the passion but just wanting to find that missing piece, like you're able to find it. And I'm sure that that was yeah, that's really meaningful that you're able to do so. I know that another part of running a band is having that great team. And like you take it another level because you are a power couple with your wife, Kat, who's also in the team as well. So can you speak to what it's like to have a great team? Like what are some tips that you have to in terms of leadership if someone else is a band leader, and how you are able to create that sound, create that, sense of community and all of that that makes things work and people show up and do their best. What does that look like for you guys?
Yeah, that's an awesome point. I mean, it goes without saying. I'm sure we've all heard it a million times, but your team is everything. The
Yeah.
talent and the quality and the drive of your team is everything. With the Ever After band, not only am I literal family with my wife right alongside me, but I've been lucky to kind of put together a group of people that considers each other family. And so I think
Yeah.
the key to a good band is trust, right?
Mm.
Because musically, there's a million things going on. It's not just about zoning out and playing all the right notes. It's about putting intention and purpose behind those notes so that you have the emotional drive there. And you can't do that if you don't trust the person next to you is
Yeah.
doing the same thing and putting in the same amount of effort.
Hmm.
So it's huge. Finding the right people is 95% of the game of success in my mind.
Right.
And I've been pretty lucky. I met these people along my journey and
Yeah.
kind of handpicked them from various other successful projects, not poaching, but they were either ready to leave or they were
Hmm.
looking for some other stuff to do. And then we just clicked. And I think it was that friendship first
Yeah.
mentality that really makes this group super special. We spend holidays together, we go on vacations together. It's like we're not just like run and gun. We're kind of ride or die.
Yeah. I love that. I'm
Yeah.
super curious, maybe just for me here, but when it comes to how you divide and conquer roles, I know that you're very much like mastermind behind the scenes. How do things look like, maybe with other teammates or maybe with your wife in terms of like dividing roles? Is it mostly musical when it comes to the other roles, and you're taking care of everything behind the scenes, or do you find ways to work together behind the scenes as well a little bit? What does that look like?
I'm so glad you asked that question. Because uh, I did it wrong for the majority of my career. And I'm sure a
Oh
lot of
yeah.
entrepreneurs watching right now probably can relate to this. But I
Right.
feel like when you get into the game and you get into running your own business, some of us, especially me, are afraid to ask for help. And
Mm.
so we take on most of the burden. We take on most of the responsibility.
Yeah.
And it wasn't until fairly recently that I realized, like, not only do I love and trust my team in a way that I want to kind of make it easy for them, but I feel like they also want to make it easy for me because they love and trust me
Yeah.
as a character in their life,
Yeah.
an important character. So, with that said, very recently, within the last season or two, we established a game plan where we were going to give everybody a role other than
Mm.
musician because that's the obvious
Right.
part, right?
Yeah.
So we have like a team of executives here that are all vested in the project.
Mm-hmm.
Kat operates as my director of communications, my venue liaison. She'll take on all that admin role, all those, and she also helps with content creation and social media
Yeah.
management. Um, we have Paul and Zach, who are my stage team. They're my stage managers.
Yeah.
They plot the stage when we get to the venue. They handle all the tech side of stuff, and so we all kind of operate like fingers on a hand,
Mm-hmm.
where individually we're all responsible for what we're responsible for, but when we pull together, that's when we actually become the band.
Yeah. That's so important. I'm sure that's so much of what makes it feel like a team when people are able to chip in and help, because that's something that people want. They want to feel like they're a part of something, that they're not just, doing the bare minimum, that they're helping make things the best they can be. So,
Yeah,
not like music is bare minimum, but you know what I mean, to be able to bring the whole vision together. And that's a
totally. No,
mistake that I made too. But yeah, go ahead.
yeah, no, I agree. I actually say that. And I don't mean it negatively, but like
Right.
to me, playing music well is that's the baseline. Like that's the easy
Hmm.
part.
Yeah.
It's everything else that kind of takes a little bit of a toll and it takes some figuring out to do. And if I can be vulnerable about this topic for a sec,
Hmm.
um, it really leads to a lot of undue stress
Mm.
when you take everything on yourself, even if you're doing it out of love, which
Hmm.
I always felt I wanted to take
Yeah.
care of my team and almost show my gratitude by doing all that ditch digging, by myself so that they didn't have to worry about that. But what I found was that when we talked as a team, they were so excited to take on these roles and so excited to be a part of growing
Hmm.
the project and the business. And it was such an awesome moment and it was such a game changer.
Yeah. Yeah, I love that. I didn't even know that about your operations. I was genuinely curious because for myself, I made that mistake as well. And I kind of like did a little bit of a flip flop from one end to the other, because I started out just, pretty much like a kid, some very unnatural leaders. So I wasn't as much leading as like, just seeing what other people wanted and doing it. But then I
Mm-hmm.
went a little too far the other way, and I was like, hey guys, like I actually did everything here. And so like, I'm actually like in charge, if we're just honest. And so, but then I took everything on myself. And so that was mistake number one, mistake number two. And then finally, it was important to establish those boundaries though. And then moving on from that point, it's like, okay, I need help.
Yeah.
Now we have some roles. Can someone please slide in and do this? And like, I'm so lucky that I have such gracious people I've worked with before, like during that season of my life, that they were so gracious with me and my learning journey of learning how to figure things out and create roles, and have been absolutely incredible to work with such incredible people who want to be a part of something. So it's just creating that structure, that vision, and then getting good people together. It can really make things go far. So I love
Yeah.
that. I didn't even know that about you.
Yeah.
So
Can I ask you a question about that?
absolutely.
So, I mean, obviously we've been working together for a little while now, and I'm learning stuff about you also in conversation that I didn't really know. Like, I know you run a really lean operation and you're like super mastermind behind the scenes. I'm always super impressed. As far as your team and stuff, like the
Yeah.
people that you've worked with, to kind of develop that team of like we always say, a team of executives.
Right.
Everyone's a boss, but like, did you know them a long time, or like were they with you a while? Like, was it weird to ask people to take on different roles at first?
Okay, so there's really one main role, but it can be split into different roles depending on what people have available for their schedule. And so we've switched out a few times depending on, what people's schedules look like, and it's
Mm-hmm.
pretty defined so that we can do that. But the there is really one one position that handles most of the back end now. And because we have a lean operation, it's my girl Gracie, and she's just incredible. Like, she's just the kindest, most caring, most thoughtful person ever, that I'm so lucky to know her and honored to be her friend. But I've known her since high school, so that
Oh,
helps too.
nice.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
that's great.
there was a lot of trust there. And we did, like, it always was like we started the business and we're always a team together. It's just learning and negotiating and figure out those roles, takes some honest conversations, but we're very similar in nature. So it works very well for us to, just be honest, but also just like, we know that both of our intentions is to make things best for the team. And that
Yeah.
involves a lot of different facets when you're looking at things from different angles, right?
Yeah.
That
And that's the
you
key,
don't
isn't
know.
it?
Yeah,
Like finding
exactly.
like-minded people, I think is really the trick of the trade. I think
Hmm.
if you can surround yourself with people that kind of want the same things you want, can see the same things you see, I mean, success is inevitable at that point.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, no, people like you, because you hear it on a ton of business podcasts or whatever. It's like, oh, it comes down to your team. You don't really think about it at first, but it's true. And I think that one of the advantages of starting like we did, like a band is kind of like integral to what our business is. So working with people is like from day one, and it's more challenging. So when I'm talking to beginner musicians and they're just like, what should I do? Should I start a band? Should I do solo? And it's kind of like that expression, if you want to go fast, go alone. You want to go far, go with a team, right? But
I love that.
most of the time I tell people, hey, just do a solo, because there's a lot of skills in learning to run a team. But if you
Yeah,
already got something going with a team, it's really wonderful if you can, get things working synergistically.
totally. Yeah, it's a
Yeah.
good point. I like that quote. I'm going to keep that in mind.
Yeah. That's good. Well, and the same is true for solo acts too. Like ultimately all the big, artists that we know and love, like they got a team, like but a band is just kind of in nature a team, from day one. But no, it's incredible. No, speaking of great advice, I made this post in the free community, and it was just like a simple post. I'm like, hey, question for all our six-figure music pros. What did I say exactly? Let me pull it up here. Like, what advice would you have given yourself when you got started? I wonder if I can share the screen, because like what you said was just so profound. Is it all right if I share and we can take a look at this?
Yeah, please.
Yeah, okay. So entire screen. Let's go window like that. Okay. I usually don't do it this way. Can you see what it is right here?
Yeah.
Okay, great. So you left this incredibly profound and thoughtful comment. There's so much great advice in this post here, but I just wanted to share a few highlights of it. And first point here, though, is simply put, always stay connected to your why. If you ever feel lost, ask yourself why you do this and find your center. You also talked about other great things like relationships are more important than your resume. So true. You are the product. Know your worth. And we won't dig into all that. We'll see what we can um, unpack a little bit more together here. But I'm curious for you, Rich, what is your why and how do you stay connected to it?
Well, whenever I feel like I'm in over my head or I can't figure this business out, and it happens, I'm just going to be super honest here. I can't do this. I want to quit. Whatever kind of demon creeps in.
Right.
I just go back to when I was like 8 or 9 years old and
Hmm.
watching. I mean, this is like way before all of our times here, but like these reruns of this piano player named Victor Borga. I don't know if you've ever heard of him. Um,
Yeah, I
he
looked
was
him up because I saw him in your like about. I'm like, who is this guy? And so I saw the inspiration. But yeah, I don't know much about him though.
total like old time musician guy.
Yeah.
I used to watch him with my grandmother, like reruns and stuff, and like I just remember this fire inside me when I was watching. It literally, I'm getting goosebumps like saying it right now. It just
Wow.
made me feel so alive, and it just literally like from when I was like 7 years old or eight, just like going, there's someone in the world who's doing that is providing so much value and like so it's like changing people's lives. He's changing my life, and
Yeah.
I want to do that for others as well. So like whenever I just kind of feel like, "Bruh, my conversion rates are low," I I just think back to like sitting on the carpet watching Victor Borga like fall off the stool while playing like a Rachmaninoff piece and laughing and going, it's way more than numbers. It is actually even way
Mm.
more than music. It's all about how I want to make people feel while I'm
Mhm.
still on this planet. And so
Yeah.
that usually kind of puts my head on straight and points me north again.
Oh. That's beautiful. It's all about how I wanna make people feel while I'm on this planet. Yeah, it's so true, and it's such a delicate balance to walk because being like we'll call you a full stack musician like you are, like, you got the talent chops, also, like, you've built the business behind it too. Doing that isn't easy, right? And so it's, having the way to navigate the mental space of like, "Okay, why are we doing this?" And being aware of, like, the numbers and all of that, that's so important, but also staying connected to that why in the process. I think that's a great skill that anyone can tap into and learn. So that's incredible. Did you see yourself as like a entrepreneur when you first got started, or just see yourself as someone with like this passion that you just wanted to go with it, or what was that like? How have you viewed yourself and over the years as you've been doing this?
God, this is like the best conversation I've ever had. Um, it's like, I think when I started out, there's not a lot of resources for musicians. Like, one of the struggles that I've always encountered as a young musician
Hmm.
was I started to kind of see the pattern. Like, there's the 1%, there's the Taylor Swifts of the world, and then
Yeah,
there's like the guy who's sleeping on his friend's couch because he's trying to make it work. And like,
yeah,
there's oftentimes you don't see a lot of examples of the thriving
mm,
musician between the
yeah,
1% and the 0% at the bottom.
yeah,
Um, so I think when I started, it was really just my goal to like be a musician. I didn't really know much about what that meant. I just knew my dad was always like practice, 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 and that's really all I knew. Just
yeah,
be a good musician first and foremost, and then
yeah.
I started to branch off and go, okay, great. Well, I've had the back in the day, I had the executive meetings with Sony. I have a lot of interest in music. So apart from the luxury event space, I do theater shows as well, where I do
Hmm.
comedy and music. I also write and compose original music for films, and I write my own music as an original pop artist, recording artist. And
Yeah,
so like I'm in like all the branches, and I just kind of like I've had the meetings with Sony. I've sat in the executive offices with the CEOs and the AR people, and it's just like there's really no formula to any of this. I don't know how to learn any of this on my own. So
right.
what I decided one day was, well, if there's nowhere else I can learn how to make this kind of work for me, I'm going to just kind of develop my own system, and I'm going to
Mm,
try to go into business. I'm going to try to do it myself, like without,
mm,
because I'm at some point, I'm like, I don't even know which doors to knock on. I've
mm.
knocked on them all. I don't
Yeah,
know who else to talk to. I've tried everything. And I was like, well, maybe I build my own house and see how that goes. And here we are. And I'm still building it. I'm still putting
yeah.
extensions on it every day, you know?
That's incredible. What do you think gave you, because you mentioned your story with your dad and like seeing him like with so much talent and and pursuing it, but at a certain point just stepping aside because of like the lack of like that clarity and how to make it sustain a family. Like, what gave you the faith, like growing up in that situation, that okay, I'm going to try and figure it out. Like, I know like it could have worked for my dad I'm gonna try to make it work for me. I'm just gonna figure it out. What gave you the faith that like that was possible with growing up in that environment?
Oh, well, the inspiration of it,
Yeah.
while it's not the happiest, it was a motivating factor. It was kind
Yeah.
of just seeing the pain like in my
Mhm.
dad his whole life of kind of just really just he was never like a jaded musician like
Right, right.
the music he just literally I could feel there was this disconnect. I could actually
Mm.
feel, and I saw the way he watched me do things as a kid, and he had a lot of hope for me, and I don't think he put his dreams on me per se, but I
Right.
absolutely learned that mindset is everything. It's
Mm.
everything.
Mm.
And what I learned from my dad is that if you tell yourself you can't, then you won't. But
Mm.
if you tell yourself that you will, you can. And so I just kept telling myself that I will. I'm not going to fail. I'm not going to sleep on people's couches. I'm going to figure out a way to
Yeah.
make the thing that I love doing most, at a minimum, earn me a livable wage.
Right.
We'll take it from there, And
Right.
starting off, God, I never thought where I am today was even a real possibility, I guess. It
Yeah.
wasn't even like, I didn't even think I understood what it meant. All I knew was like, north is that way, and I'm just going to keep heading that way no matter what comes my way.
Yeah. Oh, Rich, like so much of this resonates with me because I was like, I feel like you're telling my story in so many ways because I was, it's so similar because there was no path or like, like examples or anything. It's just like, okay, like 1% or nothing. It's like, oh man, like it doesn't seem like very good odds, but it's just surprising when you do happen upon it and you find like, oh, like, having a brand that is hireable and, doing what you're really good at. Yeah, people will pay you for that. So that's a great thing. And so you can make a business there. But it was almost like I was surprised by it when it happened and I discovered it myself. And, it's cool to see that for you as well. It was something where you didn't have hard expectations of what a bit would be, but you knew like, okay, like I'm going to figure it out. And it even exceeded where you thought. So I love
Yeah.
that. You're such an inspiration.
Oh, thanks. Well, I actually remember the switch, and I'm curious as to what yours is too. But
Yeah,
I'll share with you mine. Like,
for sure.
I did go to school. I did go to college for music,
Yeah.
but here's the thing. I listened to everyone else, and I went to
Mm.
school for music education
Uh,
because everyone was like, "You should have a backup plan."
yeah.
And I'm
I
like,
know that one.
"Yeah, that makes sense, right? Yeah, sure, that makes
Hmm.
sense." And then literally, I was like one semester away from graduating, and I got an opportunity to pursue a record deal,
Hmm.
and it was like basically stay in school and not pursue this opportunity,
Yeah.
or kind of just step off that ledge and see if you can fly, like,
You're right.
and I did, and it didn't work. I flopped. But I say that to just say what I did was, for the first time, I totally listened to myself. I was,
Yeah.
oh my God, Allison, I was miserable in college.
Oh. Oh.
It was the worst ever. I was like, I'm literally doing this because I'm telling myself that I might fail. But
Hmm.
the world is telling me it might not work out. It's really hard being in these. You hear all this advice that's just so indoctrinated with like
Yeah.
fear and doubt. And by the time I was like ready to like finish the school part, I went, I'm not going to be a teacher. This is not. I don't know if you've ever seen the movie Big Fish, but it's like one of my favorite movies. There's a quote where like the father's dying and they're trying to tell his story, and he's like, "That's not how I go," and he retells the story in his own
Hmm. Hmm.
colorful way. And so I'm like, this is not how I go. Like,
Yeah.
this is my book. Like when
Right.
at the end of my life, it's going to be the book that I wrote, not a book that everyone else wrote. So I just changed that story. So I'm curious, like, when did you realize
It's,
like
it's
your own
so
path?
Yeah, it's hilarious. Well, kind of funny because it's like the same again, because the whole like, oh, like do teaching as a backup thing was the narrative for myself as well. And most people don't know this about me, but like, not like it really matters. But throughout university, I just was like major flip flop between, doing visual art and music and kind of was in a school that I wasn't excited about. And so, like,
Wow.
by the end, it's just like, okay, like when it comes, and I did end up doing a majority of music degree, and that's cool and all, but I'm just like, okay, I'm gonna make sure I have the last year. I'm just like, I'll do it. I'll make sure I have the prerequisites for like teaching college. And I felt like I was giving up on myself a little bit by doing that. I'm like, okay, let's just make sure I have it, and I'll do it. I was already teaching violin. I love my students. I absolutely love teaching.
Mm-hmm.
And getting to the public school system, everyone's like, oh yeah, like they need music teachers. That's a great path. And I'm just like, ugh. I feel like there's more. I don't know what it is, but I already started my business, and it took a while for the dots to connect. Where it's like, hey, like because string quartet, we're performing a lot of weddings, and like so I made the business. I had a website, and people were hiring us, and I was charging like nothing for it, but like that's
Right.
because I didn't know any better. And like, but we were people's like favorite part of their wedding, and I'm like, okay, surely there is a way that this is valuable to like kind of go all in on this direction rather than just following the more proven path of just becoming a teacher, because I knew I had more skills to offer than just the music. So anyways, I didn't really still have much expectations. This is like, I'll try to make this story not too dramatic or long. But yeah, basically I'm not sure how much you know about the story. Like after I graduated is when I moved to the US from Canada. And that's when I was really sad to leave my business, but I also had to like make an income. And I
Mm-hmm.
just like was really like, I got nothing to work with here because like, like my business is over there and I'm over here, and I realized that like behind the scenes, like it's still like that's when I really like realized that like wait a second, I'm making money this with this business. I didn't even think it had much expectation. What if I cared about it a little bit more? In retrospect, I would have like done things completely differently and like actually made justified myself traveling to perform more with them, because that would have been the best way to be able to even grow the business more. But in any case, like it's a learning journey along the way, and I still I'm grateful for the journey. But yeah, it was kind of that aha moment of like not listening to the common narrative, and then like just seeing like, oh wait a second, I think there's something here. So yeah, long story short, very very similar, but here we are.
Yeah,
Not teaching in the traditional sense, but sharing sharing the journey with others. So I'm so
totally.
grateful for you to share this with us. You have been a super valued member of like the community for like quite a few months now. It's been so awesome to see you like grow and journey with you. I'm curious, like, how did you first find us? What attracted you to like musicwork.com and what we're doing, all that?
So I'm gonna have to shout out Tyler. Uh, my
Of
first
course.
encounter with you
Yeah.
was, I think I saw an ad
Hmm.
and I was like, well, that resonates. Like the thing you said, I don't remember exactly what the ad said. All I know is it made me
It was something.
it made me feel some feels. And I was just kind of like, all right, I'm gonna look Allison up, and I did, and I found your podcast, and the first one I
Mm,
listened to was Tyler Varnell,
right.
and come to find out, he actually like knows some people that I know here in New Jersey.
Amazing.
And I was like, what is this? Like, what is this community? And I just literally, it was, I mean, you probably remember, it was such a, I contacted you and I was like, I want in like right now. Like, I think I joined in like at a point where like I just jumped in like ahead of like, the typical time. I was just like,
Yeah.
I'll hang back. I'll be
Let's
quiet. I'm
go.
not going to disrupt anyone else. Let me just watch and listen because there was just so much value. As I said, there's not a lot of, in my opinion, there's not a lot of resources for the thriving independent musician. And it was like, this was the first time that I found a community of people
Right.
who are all dope. They're all great. They
Yeah.
all get it. And oh my God, they're all nice as well. Like they all want each other to succeed. There's no like
Right.
territorial muscle flexing and stuff that like can be a little prevalent, not only in music, but particularly in the event space of music. I think it can get a little bit boxy and defensive, and nobody in this community is like that. And I was like, I think these are my peeps. I need to be part of this group here.
That's incredible. Well, I'm so happy that you found us and the vibes were inviting for you because you've certainly added and amplified it to all of that you just described. So I appreciate that.
Oh, that's
What's
nice.
been like an aha moment for you when it comes to like being in the community or like working through things together as we've been working together in Music Work Pro? Anything that you're like, that's different than I thought, or like, oh, that works, or anything that comes to mind there?
Yeah. Well, going through your framework was great for me, because
Hmm.
even though I'm the kind of person who kind of just does let my artistry guide me,
Right.
I'm kind of like the sweet and sour, or the Sour Patch, kid. I'm like, I have this element in me that's like woo woo and like kind of free spirited, but I also have
Right.
this element that loves a good spreadsheet and loves a good framework. And like going through your modules and stuff, I have to take. I don't mean to embarrass you, but like I just have to say, like even hearing your kind of come up, you're so, I don't know the word I'm looking for here, but you're so business savvy. And like you just have a
Appreciate
really
that.
great way of communicating and simplifying business. And I
Hmm.
was like, I was drawn into to your coursework.
Hmm.
And there were tons of moments. My God, the SEO was a big one for me. I'm like,
Yeah, that was a big
never,
unlock. Yeah.
yeah, I'm like, never knew that. That's cool.
Yeah.
Even like your stuff on like sales and like just like a lot of the things. And again, even just gosh, in the community, just the casual conversations, the
Hmm.
collab calls. It's like there's always like some kind of a pearl in there where you're just like, I'm listening. Like, and it can come from anyone.
Hmm.
Sometimes something will come out of me that I'm like, see, I didn't even know I knew that. Like I'm just
Where'd
so
that come from?
inspired.
Yeah.
Yeah, so many great moments being part of the group so far.
Amazing. Well, it's been such a pleasure to have you. And yeah, the SEO was a big unlock for you because it doesn't, just for anyone listening, it doesn't always work like this. But for you, it was like, okay, let's do some tweaks. And then, like, bam, like we jumped enough to get you on the first page. And I think that really increased your traffic. Does not always
Yeah.
work like that. SEO is usually like a longer term play, and there's still things that we have to do. But I was really happy to see that we were able to get that little unlock for you. So that was super cool to see. But yeah, it's just like the things that you don't expect sometimes too, right? Just the knowledge that's floating around
Hmm.
with everyone. So yeah, again, it's been such a pleasure. Is there anything that you would say to someone who's like thinking about jumping into our pro level community? Who do you think it might be like a good fit for? And what would you say to them?
All right. So I'm gonna do real talk here.
Please do it.
This sounds presumptive, but typically what I find in
Mhm.
any situation, myself included, if you're in a free community hesitant to kind of up level, it might be financial. And I can
Mhm.
totally get that. But one thing I learned from a previous coach who I had worked with years ago, it kind of stuck with me, was that it's not a matter of necessarily what you can afford to do, it's what you can't afford to not do. So, and I don't mind, and I'm not like, and full transparency, like I'm not trying to sell anyone right now on this idea.
Mhm.
But if you're thinking about up leveling yourself and being a part, as they say, your network is your net worth. If you want to be a part of a community, and I know everyone here who's a musician, that's so huge for us because I think a lot of us feel like islands floating off in the water sometimes. No one gets it. They just don't get me, man. Um, it, consider it big time because this is a really, it's been, it's been a long journey for me musically and on a business level. And this is the first time I actually feel like part of a thing that's not only kind of like, I think might take the industry by storm one day, but also like there's just a lot of people here who just really care. And that's so valuable. It's so inspiring.
Appreciate that.
Yeah.
Yeah, and again, Rich, you're like such a huge part of that, right? It's everyone coming together to encourage each other and see each other grow. And yeah, we're just getting started. Super excited for how you're going to continue to grow with the Ever After band and just make incredible memories with like the clients that are hiring you, the couples, and all of that. It's just such incredible work that you're doing. So yeah, keep on it, keep growing.
Thank you.
It's been incredible and such a journey. And with that, I know like a few people popped into the chat. So if anyone has any questions that they want to pop in here, then we can go over those. If not, Rich and I will start talking about recipes or something fun like that.
I like
I
that.
know your other secret skill that we didn't even tap into that one yet. What do we got here? Show on stream is a button. It's the first time I've had people popping on podcasts, so
Nice.
I think I just made this visible here. This is fantastic. So thanks so much, Rich and Allison. I love the podcast format. So much great information. Awesome. So happy that you could join us here, Dan. Thanks for being part of the podcast live version here. Yeah, so much wisdom shared here. So again, thank you, Rich, for popping on and sharing a little bit about your story. I'm going to be posting this. This is in the music work community. Oh, so we have another one here. Okay, Elizabeth says, yes, very inspiring. Awesome. I'm so glad you're here, Elizabeth. I can't see exactly who's on the call right now until you guys are in the chat. So go ahead and leave a chat message so we know who's here because I'm curious. But Rich, I'll be posting this in our free community and also on YouTube, and I'll be sharing all your links. But also, if you can just share, where can people find you when it comes to your band and your socials and all that? What's the best way to look you up?
Yeah, best two places to kind of find me are Instagram, TikTok, and our website. So you can check us out at everafterband.com or any of our socials associated with that. And that's just my Ever After Band. But if you want to kind of go down that like, fun route, listen to me do a bunch of different crazy voices and stuff, check me out on TikTok. That's Rich Aveo, Aveo Sings.
Rich Aveo sings. Awesome. Okay,
Yeah.
so I'll be, because it took me a minute to find the TikTok channel, so I'll be sure to link that one beneath as well too. But yeah, I think that might be the pod. I think we can wrap it up there. Thanks so much for chatting with me here, Rich. It's been amazing.
My pleasure. This was so much fun. Thanks for having me.
Thanks again.